Hello, Apprenticeship Diary listeners. This is Taco Dog, part one of our time with Paulina Romain, owner and operator of Mill Pond Salon in Minnesota, and soon to be owner and operator of the Art of Ink Studio. Welcome to the Apprenticeship Diaries, where raw meets refined.
Let's be real, we're still working on refining.
What it took, what it takes, and the stories that are made.
Join us as we learn from professionals about how their stories began.
Hello, diary listeners. I'm here today with Miss Paulina Romain. She is an owner of a salon. It's called Mill Pond Salon. And in January of this year, she's going to be opening up a tattoo studio. She's a licensed cosmetic tattoo artist. And she's also a senior cosmetologist, which means, for anyone who doesn't know, that she knows how to actually teach cosmetology. And she's here today with me. We met via DM. She reached out and said that she liked the podcast, which, you know, I can't like let that pass by. I got to talk to her. So here she is today. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So before we started recording, you told me, and we're going to dive into a lot of things, but you're a licensed cosmetic tattoo artist, but you're trying to, you know, get into tattooing itself. And that's been a kind of a hurdle that was unexpected. I figured we'd start there and then we can go back, you know,
Right.
and jump around. That's fine. But let's start there.
So definitely. So I have been doing permanent cosmetics for 3.5 years now, and I've been doing hair for 13. So about 10 months ago, after all this time, I had 2 babies, and then I had to get some allergy testing after that. And I found out that I'm allergic to hair color. Well, I own a salon. What a bummer, right? Like, that sucks.
Now, do you think that because a lot of things happen, people don't realize with kids and having them that your body goes through a lot of stuff. I mean, I've met people where half their head is curly afterwards and the other half is poker straight. Like, that's what kind of body chemistry crappy.
Right.
Do you think it was from that, or?
I think it was partially related.
Yeah.
Like, I've had sensitive skin like my entire life. So I've always been dealing with like environmental allergies and like different things with my skin. But then like after having my second baby, it just like spiraled and I was like, I can't do it anymore. So
Seems like it was a good trade-off though.
yeah, for sure.
You
For
know? and it's brought you to here. Like I love because this is a neat passion story, because you're kind of showcasing what you got to do when you got to just switch gears. I mean, there's no other choice. You can't keep hurting yourself to pursue what you were doing, and now you have to switch gears within that. Why did you? Was it just a matter of wanting a complete like a full service kind of salon to integrate the cosmetic tattooing? What kind of spawned that?
So what happened was, I think it's probably been like 4.5 or 5 years. I got my brows done for the first time. I got microblading, and I am like, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Like, why am I just now figuring this out? Like, because I would not, like, I don't have to wear a lot of makeup. Like, I'm completely comfortable in my skin, but like, I wouldn't go anywhere without my brows on because it was bad.
There's no emotion. Like,
right.
I'm the same way. I tattooed my own on, you know, I'm cheap like that. I mean, I can order everything, and I figured, fuck it. If I'm going to mess up anybody's face, I'll mess up mine. And then I'll go to a professional if I really mess it up, you know,
right?
Help me. But my boyfriend was like, well, are you really going to do that yourself? What if you mess up? I'm like, you know, I feel like I've been doing it long enough. I probably know when to stop.
Right.
But it went fine. And I'm just like you. I mean, I love playing with my look. I'm comfortable with it, but I don't like waking up and not be able to see my eyebrows. There's no, like, so much of the facial emotion comes from there. And, you know, I just like being emotive and expressive. And I don't know, like, I'm very envious of eyebrows. So I'm with you. I got to do the same.
Right. My eyebrows are definitely a product of the early 2000s, you know, like the Christina Aguilera, like nothing there brows. Like my senior pictures, I wouldn't even use like any face close-ups because the Photoshop, like, the quick edits, like left a tiny little line to half his eyebrow and it was just pointing up. And I was like, oh my God, this is so bad. It was horrible.
I'm sure there's going to be a lot of listeners who completely understand. Yeah. No, it's the same. I've considered cosmetic tattooing. I have a friend locally, she teaches it, and I've considered taking one of her class, just to get more accolades, more things under me, who knows, but that's really cool. So it made all the difference for you, and you're like, I want to learn this.
Yep.
That's awesome. Right on.
Exactly it.
Now, I forgot to mention when I introduced you, you're in Minnesota, right? St. Cloud?
South of St. Cloud. So no one will know what town we're talking about. So there's not really a point in mentioning it. But yeah, right by St. Cloud.
I mean, it's a place. I didn't know anything about Minnesota until I went there. I just knew it was a state. So I knew it's cold. That's what everybody said. It's cold and it's a state.
If you ever want to come back, I'd love to have you.
Yeah, no, I would totally do that. And you're opening up your own studio. I'd love to guest spot. It would be so great. That'd be really awesome. I had a great time there. And I didn't mind the weather. Like,
right.
It's consistent there.
Yeah.
Here, man, you get it all. And you get it all every other day. Like, it's nuts. So I didn't mind.
Our spring gets that way a little bit, but like if you come in the middle of winter, if you come in the middle of summer, like you're generally knowing what to expect. Like I'm okay with the cold. I just hate the wind. Like when my boogers are freezing and I'm walking outside, that's what gets me.
Yeah, you're like, if you have to spend any extensive period of time, that's when it's a pain in the butt.
Yes.
Yep. No, I feel you. But I would imagine, well, if there's wind, the hairstyles. I was just thinking about not having hair trauma, but if there's wind, then you're screwed. Yeah. At least I was gonna think like here there's humidity, like just severe humidity, and you're screwed if you have any kind of like curl to your hair. It's just like afro puff. There's products, but
yeah, right, like only do so much.
Yeah, totally. So we'd also discussed that you have always drawn in your history. I guess talk about all of it. I mean, most people, that go into hair, at least in my experience, had somebody in their family that was in the industry or something like that, or they're just naturally creative. But I guess discuss that. You do like to draw, and that's what's kind of pushing you into this next phase.
Right. So I guess like it's kind of funny because like in my family there's not like a whole lot of my mom is one of those rubber stamper like make greeting cards kind of person. So, like there's that, but like she wakes up and does not brush her hair, doesn't do a damn thing. Like, and me and my sister both ended up becoming cosmetologists. Like where that came from, we don't really know. It was not her. But
is there like an affinity to want to help people or be there for people in some way? Because that's like the rubber stamp card person is just like they're the thoughtful one. They're the one that like
definitely like there's a lot of like nursing history in our family.
That's it.
So like we all want to care for somebody, right? Like my sister actually tried going back to school for nursing a couple of years ago. She's like, man, this shit is hard. I'm gonna stick to doing hair. Like,
well, they say it's like a cross pollinator. Like people usually in hair are advancing into nursing, and vice versa. I think it's a nice fallback if you want to do something that's a little less, because it's holistic. Hair, the whole profession, it's grappling a mental, I think, health aspect of humanity and people. It's amazing, and you feel like. I mean, I'm sure I'm not alone, but like everybody, you feel cleaner after you get your hair done. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's almost as if your entire body has been scrubbed, even though they just managed your head.
Yeah.
Weird. If it's done well, I guess.
Right. Yes.
But I feel that way about it. So that's cool. So what did that look like in Minnesota? I don't know what the whole journey is with that. I mean, it's interesting for our listeners because each state, I mean, most people don't know each state is like with any kind of regulation, it's different.
Right.
How does that look?
Since I went, like, back in 2009 when I went for cosmetology, I actually went in South Dakota because I lived like right on the border of Minnesota and South Dakota, and they go by hours, right? So cosmetology in Minnesota is 1,550 hours. In South Dakota at that time, it was 2,100 hours, which is like the max nationwide. And everyone's like, damn, that's a long time. But in my head, I'm thinking ahead. I'm like, I can do this and I can move wherever I want to. Like,
yeah, except for Florida. Florida's the only one that I've heard it's like, F you, we don't care where you've been, you got to do our shit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So,
but
yeah.
Okay. I'd have to really make a move to Florida. Like, so I guess I'm prepared. And
Right.
it's more of a retirement kind of place for me. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. In here, I think it's around the same. I think it's 1,500 if you go to school, and it's 3,500 if you do an apprenticeship under a person. So,
and I wish Minnesota had that. They don't.
Really?
Yeah. Like, I have a girlfriend who got her South Dakota license, and she wants to move to where I'm at and take a job at my salon, which I'm like, yeah, come for it. I can't do hair. You can have my chair. But because she's licensed recently in South Dakota, they said she has to go back to school for 50 hours. And I'm like, dude, that's like a week and
Why?
Like, really?
Right. Can I just report some hours to you at my salon and have her like qualify?
Can't I just get like 50 hours of supervised work? But no,
God.
Like, the cosmetology industry in Minnesota, I'm not even going to lie to you. On your one podcast, you talked about like all the hoops and how we have the most expensive like
regulatory body. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it's insane.
It's crazy.
It's completely insane. Like, the cosmetology board is stricter on my salon than the Department of Health that monitors the tattooing that I do.
Yep. Well, and it's because, and it goes all the way back to the history of our profession. It's the oldest second to prostitution, which isn't even a legal thing. But imagine if that was legal and what the regulations would have to be surrounding that. And it was back in the day when there was no distinction between healthcare and what we did. We provided teeth pulling, bloodletting, we were locked in, and then they fractionalized us, but they didn't de-escalate, and they never do.
No,
they never de-escalate the regulation whatsoever.
But the funny part about it, though, is they were in talks of doing that in Minnesota, and I'm like, do it. And everyone's like, no, then anybody. And I'm like,
yeah. So
you need to understand that if they deregulate it, like, people are going to fish out the people who suck and didn't put any time or effort into it, or those who are holding those high standards still. Yeah. It's not going to change anything.
No, it'll just make it. Yeah, it'll allow people to frame their profession in a way that they would like to, and kind of really make bonds with people that is 50-50. And the other part of it is that, like, how many people even know? Like, you see the piece of paper on the wall. Do you have any clue as to what went into that? Do you have any clue about the ratings of the person that did that test? I mean, I passed my barber's license test, and I completely failed the bloodborne pathogen part of it because I ran out of supplies. I nicked my boyfriend so many times that I didn't have enough stuff to I mean, they could clearly see that I knew how to do it.
Right.
But I failed it technically because I didn't have enough supplies. Had I been in a salon that would have stocked all that stuff, and you didn't make these packets to go into like your testing area, I would have been fine. But like, I mean, I don't know how many of now granted too, professionally, I've only done one hot lather shave for money in my life. Most people, I mean, the tests themselves, that's the other part of it, is they're so antiquated half the time that, they want all this money for what you learn, and then they don't ever like keep the quality standards up to make sure that it's a screening process for quality. I mean, that's the other part of it is that in order to do that, you'd have to rewrite books, you'd have to reformulate all the education protocols, you'd have to do all of that perpetually, and that costs a lot, and that's a continuing education thing in itself, which we both know that you kind of learn as you go. Like, each client is their own thing, you know. I mean, just in the case of you and your allergy, I mean, that happened. You know, that's what you get with why are we running out of time? This is terrible. I don't know if like, did they like change Zoom?
Is it like the free version?
Yeah, but it used to be that you got 2 participants for as long as you want. Now it seems like, I mean, everybody's charging more these days. We might have to like stop and start again. I might have to send you another link because we got 10 minutes and we're gonna take a lot longer than that. But it's fine. I'm not gonna upgrade. We'll just let the clock run out, and I'll upgrade later. I'll have to, because apparently they're charging now for more time, but we're not gonna do that yet.
My husband can help you out with that too. Like, he uses Google Meet, so he might have a suggestion for you.
Oh, cool.
Like, upgrade your Zoom.
Oh, fantastic. That's wonderful. Yeah, we can always do that. For anybody who's out there, apparently Zoom's being weird, and you know, I'm not weird. They're charging more. Square is doing the same thing. My Square account, they're now billing for things they never billed for before. Everything's getting charged. It's fine. But yeah, like you said, if regulation if they de-escalated it and took all the regulatory stuff out of it, it would be much better, I feel.
It would be. Well, like, here's the thing about like Minnesota that drives me a little wonky when it comes to cosmetology. So the Board of Cosmetology in Minnesota is not like a state-funded agency. So they charge us more for licenses and fines and all that stuff because they're not a part of the Department of Health. They're their own entity, right? So check this out. Like, you're in a nail salon, you're getting your fingernails done, and you get finished, and that girl walks you up to the register but doesn't throw the disposable nail file away before she does that. And she happens to walk with you to be courteous, because that's what we do. We walk our clients up to the front desk.
Right.
And an inspector walks in and walks over to the nail station. There's a dirty single-use nail file. That's $1,500 in fines.
What?
For a nail file.
Wow.
Because they charge that stylist $500. They charge the salon manager $500. And they charge the salon owner $500. Like, that's how they make their money. So like, I'm like, deregulate me. I don't care.
Bravo to you to even have the cojones to open a salon, dude. Like,
it's insane.
Now, did you figure that out as you went? Or is that something that, like, you know,
that's the way they've always been. But like, I've always like had like a high standard. Like, I don't want somebody walking into some grungy ass place. Like, you know, like, I want
to treat people the way you want to be treated.
Right. Like, when I first opened the salon, I had a lady walk in, and she's like, I want to take my shoes off because it feels so homey and cozy, you know, like, and that's how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Like, not like I'm going to walk into this grungy place and like, oh, do I want to get my hair done here? I don't know.
Right.
Like,
well, and that's what people don't realize is that we have eyes. Okay. Yeah. Like I have a gut that can tell me like I'm in a place where I don't belong, or that I shouldn't, you know. If you have any kind of boundaries or anything, you're gonna look at a place and go,
right.
No, I don't think I want this. And then there's the other part of it is that like I was saying before, you don't know certain things like that. Like, in your mind, it would never, for instance, it would never occur to you that you couldn't, as a practitioner, walk me up to the cash register. I'd probably look at you were rude if I saw you like cleaning up your station before you walked me up.
Right.
I'd probably be like, what the hell, man? Like, But if you don't know that that's the rules, you don't know why. And so you're sitting there being like, okay, well, this is awkward. Like, I don't.
Right. Yeah.
And then you start grading somebody in a way that's so ridiculous. And that's what I'm talking about with the regulations, and especially with hair, man. Like, it's not, I mean, yeah, it takes a certain kind of personality. It takes a certain kind of person. And preferably you would want somebody who has, a high standard for, themselves and others.
Like a perfect example of like a deregulation versus like someone who knows what they're doing or whatever. Like a few weeks ago, now this is the most bizarre thing that's ever happened. Like I've never had anything come close to it. We had a 15-year-old girl have a seizure while she was getting foils done. And so like had to call 911, whatever, and like she came to and was up like by the time they got there, and like had the stretcher in there and everything. And like the ambulance crew is ready to haul her off with these foils in her head. And we're like, well, she's awake and she's kind of like, she knows where she's at. She knows who she is. We need to get this off of her hair.
Right. We have
Otherwise, it's going to melt her hair off.
Yes.
And we can't do that.
Yes.
Like, she's not unconscious. She's not whatever. Just let us do that first.
Yes.
Like, somebody who didn't know what they were doing wouldn't have known, like, they would have just been like, oh, let me just like pull these foils out and I'm not going to like rinse her hair in any way, shape or form. Like, I mean,
freaked out and just paralyzed with the, the sheer humanity of it all and the fact that they're seizures,
Yeah.
I mean, even just that and what to do when there's a seizure, make sure that there's no objects, make sure their head's protected, things like that. I don't think a lot of people realize how medical a lot of the cosmetology field is when you're learning about it. But so I'm fine with some regulations.
Right.
I think that basic, I don't know if there can be like I mean, there's basic first aid, there's basic PP, BBP and things like
all
that.
Those damn acronyms anyway.
I know. Exactly. That's my attitude. We got 3 minutes. I just want to give you some forewarning before I might have to like send you another link, which is fine, but just so you know if we get cut off. But yeah, like that's the stuff, like it's those things that make it a lot harder. And it also makes it, I mean, I don't know how you feel and how, because you're a business owner as well.
Right.
The only thing that I would say about the deregulation is the attitude that I would expect to get from little pissant person.
Yeah.
That comes in not having had all those regulations and being just hot, granted, excited, energetic, all those things I've been. But that I had somebody kind of sometimes smack me, but not literally, but like, like humble me to my experience, be like, calm down, greenhorn. You don't know everything. Like, just chill out. You got a lot to observe first. And I see a lot online because I belong to like apprenticeship groups. And just recently I had a guy like call me the most self-entitled person, that I'm not kind, that if maybe I should give back, that I should, like teach people. Meanwhile, I'm like, dude, I have a fucking podcast. What are you talking about? And might I remind you, you're teaching yourself via videos that were created by my generation of tattoo artists.
Right.
So what do you want?
Right. I mean, that's just like, even girls who have gone to school in the cosmetology industry local, like a big part of opening a commission salon for me was like when I graduated school, the town that I lived in, you had no option but to booth rent or drive an hour to have a commission job. And I didn't want to drive an hour. Like I wanted to be in the town that I was in. So I had to like open my own salon right away. So I was in like this little 600 square foot space. I lucked out, a lady was retiring and I bought all of her stuff. Like
that's cool.
I thought I knew it all back then too, right?
Right.
But like I didn't have anybody to help me when I did have questions. So I was like, I want a salon that I can help people. Mm-hmm. So like I've been there and I've had these girls who are just out of school and they're like, I'm hot shit and I know what I'm doing. Like, I don't need you. And I'm like, okay, have fun. See you later.
Yep.
you're going to have that kind of attitude. Like, you're 21, you don't know everything, and life's going to smack you in the face, and you're going to learn, and you're going to come back and be like, okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
You know, like, maybe you were right.
Well, and just
as long
as
you learn from it.
Yep. No, and that's the truth, is that like I kind of put a pin in everything. Because this guy, I was just like, I just hope you reflect on everything that you said to me right now. I hope you reread these things a couple times. I said, because you don't know me from nothing. I don't know you. I'm just telling you that you're emotionally spouting on the internet, a place where you should expect trolls. They're the world around. Oops. Sorry, listeners. I had a bit of a issue on Zoom. So I figured I'd put in this very awkward break in our interview just to kind of segue. But without further ado, I'd like to reconnect us to my time with Paulina. So here we go, and sorry about that. I'm hitting record again. So this might be a couple start and stops. Their Zoom changed their I'm gonna have to upgrade. If I have to upgrade, it's fine. But if your husband has some kudos or some tips, I'll take them. All right. I love that there's, because that's, man, the more people I talk to, the more I understand about professions, how hard it is to get involved in things. And it's just really, it's crazy how it evolves. I mean, I guess the thing to keep in mind, I think always, is that there's best intentions always attached to them, but they very rarely turn out that way in the end, because I think what happens is like there then becomes so many different like degrees of separation between those who teach, those who regulate, those who actually practice, those who then sell tools to people who practice, that it just becomes so many different special interests. And then nobody actually works together. And it sounds like that in your area. That's amazing that they're not attached to the Board of Health, that they're actually a private industry. That's probably the reason why they don't allow for apprenticeship there, because
I wish they did.
Yeah. Well, it cuts into their money, because that would mean that each of you could be, as a senior, somebody who could be your own school.
Yeah.
So they want to corner the market there, which is real shitty, real shitty.
Yeah.
That's usually how it is. That's what most people don't understand.
Right.
That's how it gets. You get some pencil pusher who has never eventually, it becomes this way. It never starts out this way. It's usually people in the industry that start it because they want something great. And then it becomes this thing where, the actual practitioners are not the ones who actually slam the hammer down, so to speak.
Right.
So that's crazy, dude. So how does it work in once you decided you want to go into cosmetic tattooing? How does that look in Minnesota?
So it's the same as if you want to be a body art, like tattoo technician, I guess. I'm really bad at saying the right words.
Whatever. Tattooer, tattoo artist, technician, practitioner. I don't care.
Yeah, it all falls under the same category. So like I took this sounds insane to me when I'm looking at what I'm doing to get into like tattooing itself now. I took a 6-day in-depth course, which is like more than most.
Yeah.
Because most take like a day or two class. Like,
it's fine, girl. I took that long to do lifeguarding. Okay. Lifeguarding. That's what it was. It was a 6-day in-depth trial and error, you be the victim, you be the rescuer course, that then you're now okay to be hired to save lives.
Right. So I did this course, right? And like I had to do 200 hours of apprenticeship hours. Now, the school that I went to at the time, like if you've been in tattooing any period of time, apprenticeship hours, like apprenticeships, I think common are around 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yep. So 200 hours, like if you really pound that shit out, you can actually get it done and really quick. But like that's ink to skin time.
Gotcha.
So, like a bunch of people like at this academy were like, oh, we're gonna map each other's eyebrows and count this towards our apprenticeship hours. And like the Department of Health caught wind of this and they're like, oh, hold on a minute. That doesn't count.
Oh,
Like, I don't blame them because like I've been talking to a lot of my clients lately too. Like I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna get a little nitpicky. Sorry, my OCD is coming out. I just gotta make some tweaks here.
right.
Like, and they're like, no, it's fine. I'm like, well, I hope so, because would you want someone who's like coming in to tattoo your face?
Yeah.
Be like, oh, that looks all right. Sounds good. Let's get started.
It's good enough.
Yeah, good enough. Like, okay. I mean, like we've all seen those horror stories that circulate on social media, which are giving the industry a really bad vibe. So, I mean,
it isn't. I mean, I think that, I mean, it isn't. I guess so.
Like,
but at the same time, like, again, we have eyes.
Yeah,
like,
right. Like, but people think.
But I'm with you. I would much rather have somebody like take their time. Let it take your time. Whatever you need, you take it. Yeah. You're on my face, so
right.
I'm with you.
So, like, one of my like first clients at like my place like was a friend of mine, and I swear to you, we went back and forth for like 9 months because she kept coming to me and she's like, I don't want this and I don't want that. Like, I'm just scared. I don't want my eyebrows to look like. I'm like, okay. I got you. Like, okay, like I don't want to do it till you're ready anyway. Yeah. Because like a tattoo is permanent, and that's the fact of it. So I would much rather like do 2 or 3 free consultations with somebody to make sure they're like, yes, I'm committed. I want to do this, because I don't want that person who is gonna like walk out and a week later be like, oh no, this wasn't for me. I wish I would have never done it, because that can ruin my reputation too. Like, you know,
I think it's your time and hair too that has kind of taught you that as well, because I have never messed somebody up mentally so badly with the tattoo as I have a hair, hair, because it's so immediate. And you realize how critical that consultation is, how critical it is to be on the same page as your client and hear them.
There's a lot of things that like cross over for sure.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think that's been the difference with me and a lot of tattoo artists, even if they're really good tattoo artists, the problem that I have with them is that it seems like they don't love people. And for me, it's like, dude, I can't imagine. I mean, I can imagine doing my art and being fulfilled by that, but I can't imagine having my art be on a canvas where I have to interact with a person. And I don't know. I don't know. I love people so much that it's like, I'm with you. I would rather you take as many consultations, take as much as my time as necessary to be clear about what you want, because it helps me, first of all, learn about people and their anxieties and be a better practitioner. But it's also helpful for you because I don't want to do something to anybody that's going to lack in integrity. And that is, like you said, forever. It's not a haircut that'll just grow back. I mean, at least at the end of the day, when you mess up somebody's highlights or something, in their eyes, not necessarily for real, but in their eyes, it's like the end of the world. But there's a rebound. People they're like, oh, I have more hair. It's fine. It's fine. I'm good.
I mean, like I think it's perfect crossover. Like I preach to people, like, think about it this way, like it's about providing that value, like no matter what industry you're in, like it in tattoos and in cosmetology, it really translates. Because like I tell my staff all the time, I'm like, listen guys, like it doesn't matter if you give the best haircut on the block. If you give the best experience, people are willing to pay more, even if it's a mediocre haircut, because they're coming here for a feeling, not for anything else.
And you said it right there. Like, we really are masters at teaching people their own value, because we do recognize the value in the service that we're providing. And we have to learn that, because it isn't it isn't on its face necessary. A lot of the things that we did. I mean,
Right.
yeah, regular, generic grooming and all that stuff is, but the kind of services we provide are more like, crafting image and dreams. So, but that's so important to somebody's self-worth and teaching them to love themselves. And it's a great crossover to tattooing, because again, it's like next year, like nobody needs a tattoo, like, but it's so psychologically yielding for a person and validating and just amazing.
Right.
And I'm sure on the cosmetic level, I mean, you recognized it right away with your eyebrows. Have you experienced that more and more as you've done the cosmetic portion?
Oh yeah. Like
yeah.
I've had people with alopecia and things like that, and like I'm working on like as long as I'm putting in 100% all the time, like I'm happy. So like right now I'm working on training on areola replacement and scalp micropigmentation, like because I want to give people that feeling. Like, do I love doing my art? Do I love drawing? Do I love all that? Yeah, absolutely. And I love seeing the happiness that comes out of that. But nothing will beat someone who is like, oh my God, you made me feel whole again. And like, that's what I have gotten from people who have the alopecia. And like, I have a few friends who are cancer survivors, and they're like, you can use me as your practice. And I'm like, I don't know that I want to do that, because like you've already been through enough shit and I don't want to make you go through more. But
they're like, girl, you don't even know. I'm so ready. I can't even feel these things anymore. Go for it. Half the time they're like, they only feel it until you get to like the sternum. They're like, oh yeah, there's still sensitivity there.
Right.
I've never done areolas. I've only done tattoos across, clients' boobs that had them replaced, because the ones that I worked on, they didn't have breast cancer. They had the gene and did the preemptive surgery just to say, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
And, they couldn't save the nipples or anything like that. So they were like, I'm just going to rock what I have. It is what it is. Make it something beautiful, like none of this I wanted, Yeah. So let's just have fun now. And I think that's the kind of the resignation in that. And it's a freeing thing too. In fact, my friend Kathy and I just today, she's, like I said, prior to us recording, she's another hairstylist, and she loves the weather here in Maryland. She's like, dude, I love it. It's a lesson in control. You have none.
Right.
I mean, you're right. You're kind of is. I was like, I think that's why I don't care anymore. It's just because I'm like, hey man, I just come ready to go. I got my umbrella. I got my blanket everything's in my car. I got my solar panel, like phone charger. I mean, I'm like Girl Scouting it out. And she's like, yeah, man, because you learn here.
Right?
That's what you gotta have.
Yep.
So true. But it's the same with like anything like when you are like we had said, the emotional part of this job, it's so I mean, it's holistic. It's that part of healthcare that is very, very needed. And I don't think we really felt that until COVID, really. How did that hit you guys? How are you after that? I mean, what did that do for you?
Well, I mean, it wasn't the worst timing in the world, but it was next to it, because we opened the salon in March of 2019.
Oh, girl.
And then found out we were pregnant with our first child in June. And we had our baby March 13th of 2020. So
God, it just started.
Like, so that week, like the hospital calls and they're like, okay, we just want to give you a heads up. Like, we're not allowing any outside people in the hospital, whatever. I'm like, my husband's coming with me.
Right.
And they're like, no, your husband can come, but nobody else. Like, I'm sorry, but we just don't know the situation. So I literally like had a baby, and then Minnesota shut down on St. Patrick's Day. Like 4 days later, they're like, sorry, you got to close your doors just for 2 weeks, whatever. And that ended up extending out to June. So it was like over 3 months.
Wow.
It got a little crazy, but we took advantage. Like it was an unexpected blessing for me to spend that time one-on-one with my child. Cause like when you have a baby, people bombard you. They're like, hey, like my mom was like, call me when you're going to the hospital. Like I felt horrible because I was getting induced and I knew I was going, but I didn't tell her.
Right.
I was like,
no.
I just want this time myself. Like that's how I want it to be. And then that just worked out that way.
Yeah.
And then 3 months of not seeing anybody. And like we were like, man, we're sick of this shit. We're driving. We had an old like Ford Econoline van that we made into a camper. Aww. And we drove out to California to see our family so that they could meet him. So we had like an extended maternity leave / vacation. That's so great. It was really nice. We did a cross country road trip with a newborn baby.
That's wonderful. It was odd. It was odd, but unexpected timing. I'm so glad because I do feel like that was kind of the overall perspective of 2020 is that I think it was needed. It was in a weird way, very eye-opening way.
Like, was it great for the economy? Not necessarily. Like, we're taking a hit for it now. Yeah. But we're gonna recover at some point. And honestly, like, I was so happy to have that time uninterrupted with my family. And like, I'd walk around our neighborhood, and it was just refreshing to see kids outside. You couldn't go into a store and buy a trampoline or a bicycle or a swimming pool, right? Because like people were buying those things again, Mm-hmm. So like kids were outside playing. Like it wasn't just like, oh, we're gonna sit in the house on the tablet or we're gonna do this. Like families got to spend time together again.
Yeah, that's really, yes, absolutely. That's wonderful. I love that. Well, and it had great timing if that's, lined up to your first child. I'm very glad for that. Cause I don't you don't know.
I do.
I do. I don't have kids. You have been listening to my podcast. So, I don't have kids. So I always think about the business portion of it. And I get really like, don't tell me I can't do what I love to do. Like, fuck off. Yeah. Like,
right. Yeah, I know. And I totally got that way too. Like people were like, can you do back alley haircuts? I'm like,
I mean, I could, but I don't want to. Yeah. Well, and the reality is that you just, I don't know, like if you don't have your gear and your setup and like, I like a nice work life, home balance, whatever. I dabbled with the idea of having a studio downstairs in my house. And what I found was I didn't utilize it enough to warrant it there. Like you really do have to use it often and to make it nice. And I didn't. And then I found that like, I don't really want to do work like that in my house, Right. So I get you there. Like, I had people ask me about tattooing during that time. And at first I was like, I can't even access my stuff. It's in a locked studio. I can't get it. But then after that, I was like, I had to start my own business during it. And I was like, dude, I got to rebound from here. So it was like a whole bunch of like transition from one way to another. Now I'm just trying to find the cojones that you had and start my own business. I mean, I have one, but it's a sole proprietorship and it seems I don't know. I like working with people. I like meeting people.
I'm not going to lie to you. It's the scariest fucking thing you'll ever do in your life. Like
you don't have to lie. I'm scared. I'm not even doing it. That's why like when I go on these apprenticeship forums and I talk to these little shits that like tell me I'm self-entitled and stuff. I'm like, do you understand that I'm scared of half the people that like of what they're doing? Like I have enough understanding now of what I don't know that I have reverence. You're asking advice of somebody who not only does this, but has families that run their own businesses and who are continually educating themselves and trying to keep their craft up as well. Like they're going to seminars and all this stuff too. It never stops for any of us. I know that you think you're going to arrive at something, but you don't.
Like, I mean, like my husband runs a marketing agency. Like I'm sitting in his office right now in the basement. Like I can't work from home, but he does it. Like kudos to him. Like I cannot even fathom. Like it does. Like I need to separate. But and then like we're like, oh, we're gonna start this salon, and now here we are. Like, oh well, we need to open a tattoo studio, so we need to buy more real estate. So now here we sit like with 3 separate businesses. Well, technically 4 because there's rental associated with the business, like the building that we bought and like a rental house. And I'm like, are we ever going to get there? Like, are we ever going to stop this shit? Because I don't know how much more I can take. But like, the fact of the matter is like, if you stop growing, you're stagnant. Like,
yeah. I think it's just important to know to give yourself time, you know, like a lot of people. And that's again, you know, this, I hope that this podcast is supplemental for people to understand that like it sucks for all of us, but it's also worth it for all of us too. You know, that's what I have this mantra. Like my dad always tells me like, man, if you didn't have bad luck, you wouldn't have any at all. I'm like, it has nothing to do with luck because like my life is a shit show because I'm doing everything. Like I'm not just like, what is my husband has a word for it, like a lunch, I can't remember, but anyways, like a 9-to-5 worker. I'm not someone who just goes to a job and then works
comes
a
home.
Set schedule. Yeah.
Like I'm working 24/7. People are like, oh, what's your hobbies? I go home and work more.
You're
like
hobbies.
I hang out with my kids.
Right.
And then I work until I fall asleep. Like that's my hobby. That's what I enjoy.
Yep.
So,
I'm right there with you. And
like,
my friend Kathy put it this way today. This was cool. She was like, sometimes you got to open every door, you know, like
to find the right one.
Right. And she's like, you know, it might just be that it's going to take a little longer. You got to open every door, and then you got to shut it. But, you know, then when you find the right door, you walk through it. And that's how it is. And I feel like that's the truth of this profession too, is that it's either going to lead you to it and climbing within it, or it's going to lead you out of it to what you were really meant to do.
Right.
You know, like, you've accomplished so much already in just 13 years time. Like, that's so great.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I mean, so, like, I'm in awe.
Like this mantra that I was talking about, like, it's not about luck. Like, you got to look at it. Like, I always tell everybody, like, you have to look at it this way. Like, if there were really, truly no bad times in your life, what would you have to appreciate? Like, if everything was all good all the time, then what? Like,
yeah. Well, you wouldn't have any perspective. And that's a key to everything. It's a key. I mean, if you're a visual person, you know, just in hair, you can't cut a good head of hair if you stay in one spot. Right. You have to keep moving around your client. You have to look at it in the mirror. You have to flip your perspective and look at it abstractly. You have to, you know, look at them face to face and be weird and get in their face and like not even look at them, just look at the hair. You know, like, you got to do a lot of different things in order to get that right haircut. And it's all about perspective.
Right. Like with doing brows, like I make people laugh all the time because like I get in their face and I'm like, I might make some funny faces and that's okay. But I want to see like your honest to goodness reactions. Like when you laugh, what do your eyebrows do?
Oh, that's great.
Like when you're smiling, what do your eyebrows do? When you're like, what the hell is she saying to me? Like you have that little scowl. I want to know what your eyebrows do because I want to make sure they're placed well on your face. So they're not going to be like funky at any given moment because we don't control our expressions all the time.
Yep. And you know what? You just pointed out something that makes me now want to go to a professional for my next round of it when I get them touched up because you know, I can't see that for myself. I can only see what my face is in one way while I'm doing it. I mean, for the most part, people say I do my makeup well, but fuck if I know. I mean, like, it'd be good to have somebody like you, like, make me laugh and do a few things. Be like, well, you know, I can see why you did this, but I think it might be better if you do it this way.
Right.
And that's like the next level of like, I mean, we're in the visuals, so it's good to default to a lot of people's perspectives when you're trying to like get that overarching look or
Yeah.
something like that. I think that's great. That's awesome. I didn't even think about that, so that makes perfect sense.
Right. Well, and like I kind of messes with people, but I draw two different brow shapes to begin with. Like not completely different, like still structurally fitting their face or whatever, but I'm like, okay, there's slight differences in each side. Now I want you to look at each side and tell me which one you like better. So I cover half their face and I'm like, okay, look at that.
That's
okay.
awesome.
Now look at this. Like which one looks better to you? Like I see so many people have like these cookie cutter brows, like everybody's got the same shit. Not everybody's face is the same, right?
No.
Like we have to do what they're used to. And I always tell people, listen, if you have been doing your brows a certain way your entire life and they're a little uneven, I'm okay with that. Now, if they're outrageously uneven, I'm not tattooing them that way on your face. Correct. And I will tell you that. But if you feel better having them a little bit off because that's your comfort level, I'm that's okay fine. With that. Like they're not meant to be identical.
Right. Well, most people, their faces are different from side to side anyway. That's a fun project, is like clipping one side of your face and then mirroring it and see what you look like. One looks really dumb and one looks like kind of beautiful. It's weird. Like you have like a Neanderthal side and then like
yeah.
At least if it's me, I'm like, no, yeah, that's my smart side right there.
There's a bunch of reels going around about that right now. Like there's some kind of filter that does it for you. And like people are like, oh my God, what just happened?
Like, that's my long lost sibling right there.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Well, so now you had expressed that, so you're licensed in cosmetic tattooing, but now you're trying to get an apprenticeship into doing more of the artistic realm of it. And you said that that's been problematic and hard. Talk about that. It definitely
has been. So like to get licensed in Minnesota, you have to do the 200 hours. And since cosmetics and artistic body tattooing both fall under that same category under the license, like I've already been licensed and I've been doing it. So like I approach a shop and I'm like, hey, listen, here's the deal. I'm licensed. However, I do cosmetics and I want to do tattoos. Right. And everyone's like, oh, come work for me and do the cosmetics. And I'm like, no,
I got my own shop.
I have my own shop. I don't need that.
Right.
But I want to learn the proper techniques. Like, I could not tell you how many hours I spend on YouTube and how many thousands of dollars I've spent on like different online courses just to learn different techniques.
Wow.
My next one is the reinventing the tattoo. That's my next purchase. But
I think you're gonna love that.
Yeah. Like
I think it's really into the artistic realm of it. So if you haven't gone through art training and stuff, I feel like reinventing the and that really is it, honestly. It's design principles and stuff that you're gonna catch right away, because you already have an eye for shape and design and those kind of things that you'll really love, but it kind of just fine tunes your artistic knowledge. You'll love it.
So like I did finally like get into a shop in January, and like I really want to learn these things. Like I've already been learning, like the owner's like, well, I'm a piercer, so you don't have to show me your drawings because I don't know the damn difference.
I love it.
But so he's like, well, work and build up some rapport with this other artist, and like we'll do what we can, and go from there. And then you can do your permanent cosmetics here too, or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, okay, sure. Like, fine. Like I'm getting in somewhere and they're not just like, oh, come do permanent makeup for me. They're like, okay, well, we're open to this idea and we think that he'll work with you too, whatever. And I finally got somewhere, but it's still like such a limited time because like I am blessed in the sense that like he's not charging me for an apprenticeship because I already understand the basics. Like I've been drawing my entire life. Mm-hmm. Like, so I'm just like, okay, well, I want to do this kind of tattoo. What do I need to do different with this technique here? And like, he gives me the homework assignments and that, but he's not like taking time off of his schedule frequently to sit with me to monitor what I'm doing.
Gotcha.
So he finally
That's really where you get
that. Yeah.
That's where you get a lot of insight.
So that's when.
Will he let you tattoo him at all?
So funny story about that. the piercer was like, I'm really comfortable with like black and gray and lines and stuff like that. Cause I mean, like I do eyeliner. So that's like a 1 round liner or like a 0.25 3 round liner, like extra tight, like, so I'm comfortable. Yeah. I'm comfortable with that stuff. Right. But I'm like, I really need work on like color packing and stuff like that. That's where I am not comfortable. And so he's like, well, shit, I got some space on my leg. I mean, we're talking like a gold coin dollar, silver dollar kind of size. And he's like, do whatever you want. I'm like, well, shit, that's not intimidating, but I'm like, give me some kind of direction here. Right. And he's like, well, I don't know, pick something. And so I was like, well, shit, do you like Disney movies? And he's like, sure. I'm like, okay, like, what's your favorite Disney movie? And he's like, old school stuff, like maybe Fantasia or something like that. So I did a Fantasia Mickey Mouse on him.
Oh, perfect. That's awesome.
I chewed it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But the color all stayed. So he's like, it was a little rough healing, but that shit's in there.
Well, at least that's good. Well, and I think that there's a thing, I was talking about it today with one of my friends who I'm tattooing, and we were discussing our heels. I am exceedingly light-handed, but I think that was a product of doing classic art as a thing first, because you're taught to go in very light, and you're taught to keep your wrists very, very flexible when you're drawing, and you do big, things. Yep. So you're used to doing things that are real tight. You got to keep your wrists very solid, and that's how you get carpal tunnel too. right. Yeah. It's like you got to end up doing a lot of wrists like exercises afterwards, because of just like the stability that happens with tattooing. And I think that those classic tattoo artists that learned from coil machines, that learned how to put a good tattoo in, it was about like, get it in, be economic with the time, because you're usually having to deal with walk-in clients, and you want to make as much money as possible, and you don't know if you're ever going to see that person again, right? At least in the old versions of it. So you want to get it in, you want it to be efficient, economic, everything all in one, and it's not really about like romancing it or making sure that the clients having a great time. It's like, no, man, you gotta deal and suffer. And so I mean, in truth, you were just in alignment with probably every other, experience he's had. Whenever I've taught, just because where I came from, I always kind of heavily do the art background, or pick somebody that has that first, just so I can get the flexibility and things like that. But I think with reinventing the tattoo, which thank God, I mean, I don't know what it is now, but it's only like $300 for like a year. I'm not sure what it has become, because I know that they revamped their service, but dude, it's so worth it. And that's what they focus on, is a lot of the art, and it'll teach you kind of the flexibility of it. And if I could recommend, I know iPads are all the rage, and they're great for like creating and you can do a lot of stuff that's very similar, but I would say that like in the beginning, try to use like pencils and things like that you can be lighter with, and not get some shortcuts, or not have to hold, because the stylists of those things have a weird definitely too. Like
I struggle with the iPad. I'm more comfortable with pencil and paper.
Oh, good.
And like I'm in this little artsy community, like where I live. There's 1,500 people, like middle of nowhere, like, but like there's this, it's called Greenwater Garage and Art Gallery. And on Monday nights they do a painting club, and on Tuesday nights they do a drawing club. So for like $10, like it doesn't matter where you're at, like she does it on some kind of event, like Eventbrite or something like that too. And like each week it's a different topic. Like last week was negative space. And the week before that, it was like drawing some type of glass to like catch reflections and, you know,
Perfect.
like to learn that type of thing together without like the pressure of like, here's a class and you're going to be graded on it and this is how it is. And like, I love that about our community. Like, if you like, it's a charming little town. Like if you pull into town, it's New London, Minnesota. So if anybody wants to come visit a small artsy town, like
you're
hey,
like, we're right here. You're welcome.
Like
love to have you.
There's like murals painted all over the town, like the sides of buildings and the backs of buildings and stuff like that. Like we have one building when you first come into town every couple of years, they do a community project. So they section it out in little squares and they have like a printed off picture, like a large thing. Like right now it's like girls ice skating.
Oh, cool.
And like you pick a square and like someone will give you the paint colors that you need and like an image that goes within that square. And then like the whole community does it together. Like
that's so
everyone
cool.
paints their little square and like we have this big mural and people can like walk by and be like, hey, I helped do that. Like,
oh dude, that's awesome. I hate to get on me for a second because this isn't about me, but that's kind of what I had thought about doing if I were to assume my dad's building. My mom said I was foolish because that's what she likes to do. I mean, I don't know if she likes to do it. I think it's just her natural temperament is to nah dog anything that I might propose because it's good, right? Like, because it's good to hear from all sides of her perspective. She's always my warning, my unsolicited advice, my opinions that just fuck up any kind of like dream I might have, but it's good. It's fine. Cause she is right a lot. She does think about other things, but there's this big fence outside my dad's salon. And I thought about doing the same thing as like an advertising thing, like doing, a yearly communal project where and not even as regimented, though that would be even cooler, is like if we all came together and like we came up with a design together and then everybody got paints and did it and involve the community in it. Because I would love to do something like that. I really like things like that. That's really, really, really cool. And it's such a great thing to like draw people in, especially to a small town and stuff. It's super cool.
Well, you'll have to come check it out so you can take the idea and how to work it back. Like, I can put you in touch with the lady who does all the organizing of all of it. Like the project last summer was like community butterfly murals. So there's like butterflies all over the sides of different buildings that different people painted. I
love murals, man. That would be dope. I am upgrading right now on my Zoom. So if you see me like not make eye contact with you, I've been doing I was like, I'm just freaking gonna upgrade right now. I don't want to have to. I mean, if it'll stave off, like we got 3 minutes before it clicks us off again, it's gonna annoy the piss out of me. This is how you get me to pay for shit, by the way. I'm just like, screw it. I don't even care. Like, don't mess up my thing.
Right.
I'm hoping though that no, this is not it. Okay, I gotta think of my credit card number, which I know by heart, but only if I'm focused. All
right, I'll let you focus. We're gonna take a moment of silence for Amy's brain.
What the hell is I'm not gonna remember it now. So
much pressure.
I know, it's so terrible. I think I got it, and if I don't, well, then it'll just kick it back on me, and it's gonna tell me we don't accept your money. Thank you so much, everyone, listeners involved. I appreciate you. It's Rod of Friend.
Right.
Shit show. What is my damn expiration date? I think it's that. Jesus Christ. In every other instance I got it down. Now where's the like submit button? This is what I hate. Is it here? Oh god. Yeah. Oh, here we go. Continue. Oh, employment account. Okay. Just me. Why is that essential? Anybody who's upgraded with Zoom. Okay. That's not bad. I mean, it's not great, but it's not bad.
Right.
For anyone who's upgrading their Zoom account so that you can go longer than 40 minutes, which is what they give you, it's $14.99 per month, just FYI, which is fine. I will deal with it. And by the way, if you have a Square account, they also have started charging for syncopation. Cool. For completing your purchase, please remain on the page and do not close your browser. I know, right?
We've now been upgraded to unlimited minutes.
Fuck yes. This is what has to happen. But yeah, my Square account did the same thing. I mean, again, everybody's got to start, they got to charge more, all that stuff. Inflation, blah, blah, blah. It's important. I get it. But now Square is charging for syncing my calendars too, which was fun finding out because they just decided not to do it anymore. And they might have sent an email, but like you get so many from these fucking places that it's like I'm supposed to open every single one of them. I guess I am. And I just one day didn't have my calendar sync up and I didn't know what my schedule was. And I was like, holy shit, what's happening? And then I find out that they're now charging for syncing your calendars. And I'm like, oh shit. And it's like $30 a month. I'm like, what? Okay.
Well, that's just like my booking software. Like they upgrade for everything. Like, oh, I want my forms to be digital. That's an extra $10 a month. I need to add someone else to my calendar. That's an extra $10. Like, I want to be able to store photos. So when I have someone coming in for a tattoo, I have a photo. Like, or like microblading, I can store photos of their eyebrows or whatever. Like, I'm a photo oriented person. Like, I could walk up to you and like formulate your hair color by looking at it, but like
I still want pictures.
Right, but if it's like 2 or 3 months old and it's faded, like do you have a picture of when your hair was fresh? Because then I'll know, right? Like,
no, totally. I 100% agree. Not to mention, it's kind of, I don't know, I'm a hoarder. I'm a digital hoarder. I have so many external hard drives. I pay for so much storage space. It's dumb. I try to like delete them all, but I love storytelling and everything's valuable to me and it sucks. Like sorry, I feel you. But that was the thing. You had contacted me about when I was talking about the corrections in Minnesota, and I was trying desperately to because I don't think that it was her agenda, to be honest with you. Nan was nice and all, but I think that the truth is that she had a budget and she had to spend a budget and she had to validate a budget and she was just thinking of something to do and I don't think she really wanted to listen to me. But as far as rehabilitation, I mean, when you are setting somebody up for a position, as you well know, you're already licensed and you're having a hard time going into the next phase of it. You find out there's all these things that they charge you for that,
right?
Like,
well, and something like, so what you said on that podcast about like the 3 years experience, like that resonated with me so strong because it was like, I do have an apprentice with permanent makeup right now. Like you said, I live in a rural area. Like there's no options. Like I had to drive 2 hours to go to my apprenticeship when I originally did it. Whoa. So this girl approached me and she was like, I want to do this. And like, I'm already signed up for a class, but like, I don't want to have to go to the metro and whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm 3 years in. I'm happy to do it and teach you what I've learned in those 3 years because I just stopped being fucking terrified.
Right.
But I said a lot of it is going to be us learning some things together.
Yeah.
Like, not gonna lie to you, I don't fucking know it all. That's for sure. Well, but like,
I will say that you probably have the edge because of the hair industry. I mean, you have a natural. There's a lot of things that people don't realize, and that's the other thing is that in a prison, when consensual sex between 2 adults is considered legally rape in those kind of facilities. How are you gonna allow a prisoner to touch someone as necessary and deal with all of those things. I mean, you have to kind of be used to um touching somebody in a very specific way, and at least you were already over that in a lot of respects with your hair, life. You have that barrier break where you're comfortable in that space where you're really breaking down some boundaries that in other realms you
Right.
really have to adhere to. It's not acceptable, but in the hair world it is. So
Yep.
in that respect, you are more savvy and used to a lot of things than you probably even give yourself credit for, because tattooing itself is intimidating, but there's a lot of things I found for people who are just not used to touching people or absorbing
Right.
their pain or their discomfort or any of those things that you are. So I'd say that you probably are more like, 5 years in, if we were to curve it just for that in respect to what you've already learned in the hair industry. But again, kudos to you for knowing what you don't know and being real with what you could give to that person.
Right.
I think that's awesome. And you save them a 2-hour drive in a place where now we have $5 gas prices, so a
Right.
gallon. So that's a lot.
Well, I mean, like, I think a big part of it is like, just don't bullshit people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I had a gal like that I did a line work tattoo on that turned out great. And she's like, well, this is the lotus that I want to put in the center of the circle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she showed me this picture and it's a solid color, no outline. And I'm like, I'm not gonna lie to you, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not there.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, eventually, yes. But at this point, no. And she's like, no, that's cool. Like, I appreciate you like telling me that. Like, she's not like, oh, well, shit, I'm gonna go somewhere else then. She was like respectful of that and like patient with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, sounds good. Like, let me know whenever you're ready. And like, that's how it has to be. Like, if you're not fucking ready, don't do it. Know your own boundaries and be willing to learn to push past them. Like, I do some pieces that are kind of on the edge of my comfort level, but I'm not going to do something that I'm like, I have no fucking idea what I'm doing, but I'm just going to go for it. Like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I don't want that shit on my body and I don't want to do it to somebody else.
Yeah. Well, and that was my whole thing with the corrections thing. It's not that I don't believe in second chances, but I have to be real with a person where they're at. And realistically, a person's in prison.
Yeah,
like,
right.
They're already in prison because they're used to and kind of irreverent with boundaries anyway. So regardless what the boundary is that they crossed, and whatever we might think about whether or not they should be in prison or in that whatever, they crossed a boundary that is about societal respect and assimilation that they've already been flagrant and disregarding to. Why would I feel comfortable giving that person that kind of allowance to double down on that and take further allowance and irreverent kind of attitude into something that's permanent on another person?
Like, the other thing that like, at first when I heard about it, I was like, I'm on the fence about it. Like, it's not like, let's teach them something that'll be useful. But then, like, I mean, there's other things too, but the thing I think that gets me about it, and I like don't want to be political by any means, but like, what the fuck about wiping out all this college debt, right? Like, what about the people like me or you? Like, when I got out of cosmetology school, I didn't have any clients, but I had to run a business. So what did I do? I worked 9 to 5 or 6 in the salon, ate some food, and then I bartended from 7 to 2.
Yep.
And I did that multiple days a week just to
while
pay the
paying
bills.
Taxes.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot. And that's my other part of that. And I don't think there's anything political like that. It's just real. It's just real. It's just the truth. And unfortunately, it seems like to me, we're becoming less and less comfortable with that truth, or at the very least, people recognizing where we are, which is, it's again, like you had pointed out, in keeping and growing, but you can't really grow if you don't know where you're at either. So, and you can't say no to something if you don't know your boundaries either. You can't assess anything if you're not being
Right.
real with where you're at. And that's my whole thing, is that, you know, things need to matter. You know, in order for you to teach something, there has to be common understandings about what we're doing. You can't just keep reinventing the wheel and then expect everybody to be on the same page. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
People are going to be like, well, wait a minute. What the hell's going on now? Like, wait a minute. I thought I was fine. Now I'm not fine. You know, like, what did it? And I don't think that's political. I think that that's just, you know, it's just using your eyes.
Yeah.
Like, looking around and being like, wait a minute, man. I want, and that's something that I try to tell people too. Like, look, everything, whether it's politics, religion, any of these things you're not supposed to talk about, we create them. We're people. We create them. They are systems. They are understandings that we create, no matter what religion, no matter what faith, no matter what practice, whatever. It's human beings creating these things. But there is a need in if we're talking about societies and creating things and coming together. I think ultimately what we all seek, and you know this as a service industry provider, people want to connect. That's what they ultimately want to do. How hard are we going to make that? That's the real question, is how hard are you going to make giving somebody a hug? How hard are you going to make, you know, comforting somebody when they really, really need just an ear or, you know, some understanding? That's the thing, is that, yeah, there's lots of things to be freaked out about. And there's lots of things that you could focus on that make that connection, you know, more taxing. But at the end of the day, like, that's what we're here to do. You know, we're here to take risks, and ain't none of us getting out of this shit alive. So fuck it, dude. Like, what are we going to do? I'm going to turn on my light real quick. But yeah, and honestly, I like politics and all that stuff because I learn a lot about somebody. I always think about it in terms of like, well, I'm not trying to change who you are. I know that's the perception whenever I speak about something. But it's more so I'm trying to gain perspective, and I'm trying to test my own to see if, you know, there's more people that think like me.
Yeah. I personally like politics too, but like my dad, I was an accident. I was a late child. My dad is 82 years old. So I was raised by a baby boomer, you know, like my mom's a Gen Xer, my dad's a baby boomer. People say robbed the cradle, whatever. But like one of my favorite pastimes is like where I'm from. It's like another little small tiny town. There's a Moose Lodge there, a little bar. And on Friday nights, they do a meat raffle, which is like a Midwest thing. So if you've never heard of it, like, I'm not crazy. It's just
break it down. What is it?
So the local like grocers or meat markets, like anything like that, will like donate like a bunch of different packages, like valued at like say $10, depending on like how much they charge you. And then they give out 25 tickets around, and 2 tickets get pulled, and you get to go pick out a steak to take home and cook.
Dude, that's
like,
dope.
Yeah. So it's a small town Midwestern thing. But like, so that was like what me and my dad did together, right? Like, I don't live there anymore, so we don't really get the chance to do it much, but like we'd go to this bar and we'd sit with his happy hour crowd. So like I'm talking about like, you know, at the time, a bunch of guys in their mid 60s to their 70s, and these dudes would sit next to each other at the bar and talk politics and bicker. And I mean, back and forth, like completely different. You'd have Democrats and Republicans, and didn't fucking matter. Like they were like, oh, but this and this, you know, like just back and forth all night long. And the fact of the matter was, by the next week, nobody cared.
No,
they all still sat next to each other. Like you could talk about it. Someone could have a different opinion. Like you might talk shit to them, be like, oh yeah. But like they were still friends at the end of it all. Like,
well, that's what boys do.
Opinion.
And that's what boys do anyway. Like they give each other shit all the time.
Right.
You know, they call each other names, they poke fun. But it's also like, I think you know, you know, like the want to like solve the woes of the world in a small town bar. I think that's in all of us. Like if
Yeah.
only, like if we had it my way, or you know, like it's good because you learn about a person. And you also learn that you can have disagreements with a person. You can learn what I think you learn what love really is, because
Right.
if you can't have a misunderstanding or a bicker with somebody and then come back at the end of the day and know what's real, you know, like what's
Yeah.
really important, then you were never meant to be friends anyway. Like,
Right.
you know, so I think
Yeah.
that's amazing. That's really, really cool. And it makes sense too, because as a caretaker or somebody who meets so many people throughout your life and just wanting to comfort them wherever they are, you know, that would be a study and a very interesting one. I did the same thing. Not not so much as I just got gained access to a lot of places that I wasn't supposed to.
Right.
I think because my
Like,
parents are just like,
yeah.
whatever.
Business owners, local community, like
Yeah.
everybody knows everybody. It's okay. You're 10, you can come in the bar and shoot pool. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think their pastimes in their lives were so much more traumatic. They knew they were making
Right.
it easier on us. Like this was, you know, this was
Right.
nothing compared to their childhood trauma. So
Right.
like, let them listen. It's fine. They got to learn.
Yeah. Totally.
But I always found it fascinating. Like I loved watching it and stuff. I guess that's just how I process things too. It was hard for me when I was learning too, because I learned through asking a lot of questions and through needing to verbalize things that I see and
Mhm.
think. And I think that comes out wrong a lot. At least it
Oh,
has been in my experience.
we could be best friends.
I'm already there, girl. I think it's
Yeah.
awesome.
Like, I'm an over explainer and I repeat things all the time, you know? And people are like, yes, yes. And I'm like, okay, you know what? It helps me to say it out loud to make sure I'm understanding it correctly and to make sure that I remember it. So that's the way it's going to be. And then I'll come home and I'm telling the same story to all 10 people I saw in the day. And I tell my husband this story. He's like, you already told me that like 3 times. I'm like, do you know how many people I told that story? I don't know if I told you or not.
Be like, you're the marketing guru. Like,
Yeah.
this is my sales pitch, bro. Like, I mean, it's like, you know, like you should be used to this by now.
Right.
It was the same thing with my dad. Like we all heard the same joke for like a month straight. So all of us were like, oh my God, not this again. But everybody that he, you know, did hair of, it was their first time hearing it.
Yep.
And that's what you get. Like you gotta, you know, you gotta find a rhythm in it too, because I mean, you know, just certain things denote your style, your marketing, your branding, who you are, all those things.
My branding is nerdy.
I love it. I love it. That's going to be great for you in tattooing as well. So getting back to that, what is the style that you like and that what you want to learn?
So I love like realistic stuff, but like I'm kind of learning to like other things. Like one thing that drives me absolutely bonkers right now, and it might be controversial, but
I'm ready.
Permanent cosmetics, like institutes, teachers, whatever, are starting to teach these tiny tattoo courses, right?
Okay.
And like, I love fine line tattoos and I love that kind of stuff. However, we have to be realistic with it. Like, they're teaching like these little inch by inch things. And like, there's tons of detail. And I'm like, girl, I can do that for you, but let's make it like 4 or 5 inches big, because what do you want it to look like in 5 years? Like,
right. Or even more.
Nobody
what
can.
What do you want to look like it when I'm across the room?
Right.
What do you want it to look like? Because
right.
if I don't make that look just as good across the room,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to be up in your grill to recognize it. And how close do you want motherfuckers to be to you?
Right. So like, but they're like having these like 1-day courses for tiny tattoos for permanent cosmetic artists. And I'm like, there is no way that you're going to learn all of that information.
Do you guys have, because I would think you would be more tapped into different skin types and stuff, because it is a study of the hair world as well.
Yeah.
I think a good business model would be, if you're going to explore the tiny tattoo, figure out how to put a tattoo in on the hands and the fingers well,
Yeah.
because there's no way, you can't really make them big. They have to be
Right.
small. And if you can figure out a technique that holds them in the skin very, very well, either that or a process or something like that. I've heard that with the palm, the thing to do is stipple, like run the line and then stipple it in, and just make sure it's a very purposeful stipple. And then,
so like for me, the smaller tattoos that I've been doing, like I've done a couple on hands and stuff. And like, I know it kind of goes against like the traditional technique, but like I kind of brush my lines in, like you said, that light, and like that's worked well for me,
Good.
But I always warn people, like, if you're coming in for a hand tattoo, like this is a high maintenance tattoo. Before I give it to you, I'm going to tell you, like, expect to touch this thing up yearly.
Yeah.
Like you have to know that going in. Otherwise, I don't want to do it. Like I had someone the other day who wanted like this stack of books going down onto the heel of her hand and like a leaf coming off, and I'm like, well, we can put it there. However, like you're going to have to get that area of the tattoo touched up a lot. And she's like, oh, well, never mind. We can move it up then, like
the best ones is if, I mean, this is a sales pitch for anybody who wants to, because I think that tattooing is very shamanistic. It's very, it's rooted in ritual. I have a friend who had me do Nordic runes. He actually does practice a more Nordic pagan kind of religion. And he put them on the insides of his fingers on these pads. And it's on the first knuckle of the inner pad. And they do wear off. And every time that we re-tattoo them, he redoes the ritual. Like he goes over and over in his head, the meanings of them. And he, just kind of gives himself over to the pain, because he says it's wicked painful. And he knows that. And he's like, I feel like every time they wear off, it's time for me to renew my vows. So I think that that's a good thing for them. And of course, that's the inside of the hand, and given who you're talking to or dealing with, if you're dealing with somebody who works with their hands a lot, they're probably going to wear off faster and all that stuff. But I mean, I have a hand tattoo and it's done fine. Like, but it's on a place in the hand where it was a 50-50. I don't do much more than tattoo. I'm gloved up all day. So it was going to be fine.
Like one lady I had was a nurse. So like, imagine how many times a day you're washing your hand or using sanitizer and stuff. And like, it was very simple, just a little cross on a ring finger. And I'm like, yeah, we can definitely do that. But I'm going to tell you, like, it has to be touched up. I guess like the bone I had to pick is like, since I started with this tattoo artist, like, and it's not even a true apprenticeship, like there is a major difference in technique from tattooing to permanent cosmetics. Like there is no way. There's no way that you're going to learn how to do a tattoo in a day as compared to like doing, if because like the classes are like, well, if you're already licensed, this is an advanced course. Like this is not a beginner course. And that's great, but you're not going to learn to tattoo in a day.
No,
it's not going to happen.
No. And there's a reason why they ask 200 hours just for the cosmetic portion, or any of it, is like that time under the needle really matters. And, I have a guy, I forget where he is. I think he's in Norway. I mean, he'll know I'm talking about him if he listens to the podcast, but I keep trying to sell him on this one style. And his whole thing is like, well, I'm trying to stay busy. I'm trying to like take what comes. I can't force my, my wants on people. I'm like, but actually you can. What you have to do is create a lot of, and you're a person who has a marketing agent in the house, so he can probably help you. But you have to create a lot of pre-drawn art. But why not sell people on something that you have to be less like, that you can be more free flowing with? I see what he's going for. But if you don't get that solid tattoo, that solid line work, it just looks like you fucked up.
So, so you want to hear a funny story about that?
Yes, totally.
One of the first like traditional style tattoos I did was on my brother-in-law. And he's just like, whatever, dude. He's super chill, right?
Right.
He has a chihuahua named Taco. So he's like, I want a taco dog. And I'm like, okay, explain a little more. He's like, I want a taco with legs and a tail. I'm like, okay.
Like, okay.
So I'm going into this and I'm scared shitless to use black because like I've only had minimal amounts of training at this point. I'm like, I'm not gonna lie, it's probably not gonna be perfect. Like, I hope you're okay with that. Like, I just want you to know. He's like, yeah, I know, it's fine. We'll put it up on my like upper leg and no one will have to see it, whatever. So I did this tattoo. Man, did it look like shit. Because I was like, I don't want to do black because you can't cover that up very easily. But you know what? If it's just like this yellow color, it's okay. And I was like, okay. So I just redid it like a month ago and put the outline on it. What a freaking difference.
Right?
Like, you talk about solid line work. Like,
yeah.
Oh my God.
It makes the whole difference. And kudos to you for going that route. Like, and for him to allow you to do what you were comfortable with and take the time to get a good taco dog, you know, like, you know, like, I mean, in itself, it's funny, it's quirky, it's gregarious, it's, you know, kind of irreverent because it's very personal. And I'm sure he gave you that skin because he really wanted to be a part of it. Not too many taco dogs out there. That wraps up part 1, diary listeners. Please be sure to come back for the conclusion next week with Paulina and to hear more about the Art of Ink Studio.
Thanks for listening. You can find the Apprenticeship Diaries on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our IG is _apprenticeship_diary. If you would like to offer constructive criticism or an interview, drop us an email at theapprenticeshipdiaries@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from our listeners.